Hello, here's my drawing of Clint Eastwood, this time in color. I did drawings of him before and those were black and white, mostly in charcoal and some other types of pencils, but this time I used colored pencils, and I didn't use just colored pencils because I decided to combine them with pastels, soft pastels and pastel pencils. And that's what I wanted to talk to you about a little bit, about my tools. I normally do black and white drawings, and when I do draw in color, sometimes I like to combine colored pencils and pastel pencils because soft pastels, because pastels are easy to blend, and they allow you to produce these very nice vibrant colors, while on the other hand colored pencils are actually very easy to sharpen, and they give you a lot of control and precision, and you can draw some nice detail with them, and they're also a lot less messy to work with. So I try to use advantages of both of these media. And the colored pencils that I used are the ones that I normally use, which are Faber-Castell and Staedtler mostly. And as for the pastels, the soft pastels and the pastel pencils, I mostly used Koh-i-Noor. That's the name of the brand. So those are the things I used to produce this drawing. Anyway, now I'm going to be showing you the drawing process and talking a little bit about how I did this drawing. So if you like it, give me a like, subscribe to my channel, and check out my other videos. Now let's have a look at the drawing process. I'm starting out with soft pastels because it's a quick way to cover a large area, and they're also easy to blend. I first used this light reddish brown, and then I went over it with a couple of darker browns. And since my light source is going to be coming more from the right side, I'm going to be shading the left side a little bit darker. Now you can see that I also used a couple of darker pastel pencils to shade the left side of the hat. And now, as you can see, I'm doing the same thing on the rim of the hat as well, shading the right side a little bit lighter, and then going over the left side with a darker brown. And I'm using this bit of soft pastel, just blocking in some of the darker areas. Now I'm going to be blending that a little bit. And in case you're wondering what on earth it is that I'm using right now, it's not a brush, it's a tool that I made myself out of an old brush, but the tip is made of the material that mouse pads are made of, that foamy, spongy material. And I find that it's really good for blending pastel because it pushes the pigment around nicely and pushes it into the paper. So now I'm shading the hat and adding some of the final details on it, and then moving on to the hair and the face. So again, like I said, I'm going to be using a combination of colored pencils and pastels. Now I'm starting to draw some of the detail on the face with a colored pencil, or with a couple of colored pencils, mostly browns, some of them lighter reddish browns, some of them darker browns. And I'm just going to leave those lines, leave those details there, and then block in some of the areas of the face with a soft pastel, blend that around, and hopefully these lines will still show through. And then I'm going to refine the shape of the face and the facial features with some more colored pencil work. But the good thing about pastels, whether they are soft pastels or pastel pencils, is that they are blended more easily and they cover larger areas more quickly. But they don't have the precision and the neatness of the colored pencils, and they can sometimes be frustrating for somebody who likes to keep things clean. But that's why I decided to do the same thing that I do with charcoal. I combine charcoal with a black colored pencil to get the best results. So I decided here to combine pastels with colored pencils to get the desired result. Now here you can see I used a little bit of that brown that I used on the hat as well. And I'm using that same tool that I used on the hat previously to spread the soft pastel around. And right now it looks like a mess, but soon enough I'll be fixing it and refining those facial features. No need to panic, maybe just a little bit, because there are times that when even I'm not really sure what I'm doing. So I'm shading the area under the hat. And once I do that, I'm going to be focusing mostly on the face. The thing is that I wanted the face to be kind of reddish and brown, like in my reference photo, because of the lighting. Because of the lighting, it had that reddish tone, so I wanted to keep that, and that's why I use these reddish browns and ochres to draw the face. And the right side of the face, or his left, is going to be a lot lighter because of the light source. As you can see, I'm doing a lot of these lines around the eyes because Clint Eastwood always squints a lot in his movies, and that's just a part of the process of achieving likeness here. And because of these reddish tones, I'm gonna have to shade the beard in a similar way as well, starting from the lighter and reddish browns to the darker ones and almost black. Now I'm working on the ear using some of those darker browns, and here and there I also tried using a little bit of ivory, very light colored pencil, to burnish some parts of the face, but I didn't really like the effect, so I went over them again with a few of the lighter colored pencils. And I also tried to use brushes for blending here and there a little bit, but I wasn't really happy with the effect I was achieving. So now I'm working on the beard. And it took a little bit of layering and patience, because like I said, I was going from lighter tones or lighter hairs to the darker ones and back, going back and forth until I layered it properly and shaded it properly. And now I'm going to be moving on to the other side of the face. And one of the things I've noticed when drawing portraits is that when I draw one side of the face, I often procrastinate before I move on to the other, and I have to push myself to finish it so that the other side of the face doesn't remain too light. But the good thing here is that the other side of the face is going to be lighter anyway because of the light source. And as you can see, I'm going to have a few highlights on the face as well because of the strong light, especially on the tip of the nose. I'm going to be leaving that very light, almost white. And I'm still adding a few more details on the beard as well, because that took a lot of work. And just trying to add a few other tones to the face. And now I'm drawing those highlights on the face. You can see that I used my pencil eraser to clean up some of these highlights, and especially on the nose and around the eyebrows, and just adding a few final touches to the face, refining the texture and some of the facial features a little bit before I move on to his clothes and the background. Also working on the mouth a little bit. He always looks like he has a bit of a sneer. But I think the face is mostly done, and now I'm moving on to this scarf around the neck. Again, using a few darker pastels to shade it, and then going back in with colored pencils. Here, as you can see, I'm moving on to the background, and I'm holding a piece of soft pastel, a white soft pastel, and I'm laying down a layer of white soft pastel. Why am I doing that? Well, because I want to have a clear blue sky behind him, and I want it to be kind of smooth and light, of lighter color. So I'm going to use an underlayer of white soft pastel and then go over it with a blue pastel a little bit later. I'm using my finger to blend this to make it faster. And if I go over some of the parts of his hat or face, I'm just going to clean it up later. Here I'm using that blue pastel and blending that, and as you can see, I'm getting a fairly smooth bluish color, which was my intention in the first place. So now I'm going to be moving on to the clothes and the robe. I'm going to use a light brown to sketch around some of the pattern on his robe, and then I'm going to use some brown pastel. I'm doing this rather quickly and carelessly. I don't really care about the edges right now because I'm going to clean them up a little bit later. I'm using one of the darker browns that I also used a little bit on the hat, and now adding a little bit of the darker tones to create these folds in the robe, and the lighter ones as well. Now it looks kind of blurry and messy, but I'm going to use my pencil eraser to clean up these white lines or white patterns, and then I'm going to go over the rest with a couple of colored pencils to clean up the edges and to get the right tone, to get the right color, because I want it a little bit more greenish. I'm adding a little bit of green and a little bit of brown and even a little bit of dark blue here and there. I want to produce dark greenish brown. And here you can see that I skipped over part of the footage, and the robe is now almost done. I'm now moving on to the shirt and the collar, which is going to be kind of grayish and bluish. And I'm mostly doing that with a colored pencil, but I'm also using a little bit of pastel pencil to shade in some of these darker areas. Now moving on to the neck here, doing a little bit of a shadow here, trying to make it smoother, shading the area under the scarf a little bit and under the collar. And I'm doing the same thing on the right side as well. Just adding a few final details here. Here I sprayed the drawing with a fixative. That's why it often looks a little bit darker. But the drawing is done. I'm just adding a few final touches. I like to spray my drawings with a copious amount of fixative. And now I'm going to sign it, a small signature here. And that's it. That's the finished drawing. It was based on a reference photo from one of Clint Eastwood movies from the trilogy. For a few dollars more. Just moving it around so that you can see all of it. I'm also going to try to zoom in a little bit so that you can see more of the detail on the face and more of the texture. A lot of work was put into it. I hope you enjoyed this narrated video of my drawing of Clint Eastwood. I'll see you in the next video.